I feel paralyzed.
Hey guys. Alright, so if you watched the first part of this video, or not the first part of this video, but the first part of how to train your DK, I talked about talents and glyphs, so if you need anything on that, go ahead and go back to that part. This time, I'm going to cover gear very quickly, and it's actually a step in a different direction from what Unholy Death Knights are used to. In the past, at least in Miss, you basically just reforged everything into haste and mastery. You kind of picked one and went with it. There were a couple oddballs here and there, but for the most part that's what it was. Now, you should remember this is patch 5.4. Now it's all about crit and mastery. If you have haste, reforge that. Mastery comes first, typically. It's kind of a judgment call, but PvP gear usually only has 2 stats anyway, so if it doesn't have mastery, clearly you go into or if it does have mastery, clearly you get crit, and if it does have crit, clearly you get mastery. When you're fully geared, I actually got kind of bored this season, sorry. When you're fully geared, you should have 22-23% crit, somewhere around there. If you use a release trinket, which I'll talk about in just a second, you can have a little more, so just a thought. So, the thing about it is, it's not that much more damage. The nice thing about the crit, from what I can tell, is your dots, when they do crit, that's nice, but the best thing is the Soul Reaper. When that Soul Reaper goes off at 35% health, 35% out of 550k, that is really not that much. That actually comes out to about 192. One good crit is about 170, 180k, plus a dot tick, and they are dead. So, keeping that in mind, when it does crit, it's really nice. So, there is a reason for the crit. It's also kind of a judgment call how you decide to gem. You can, I'm pretty much all strength except this one slot, but that's from last season. You can match the sockets. If you do, you probably want to pick mastery strength for yellow, PvP power strength for blue, but for the most part you can just go straight strength and you will be just fine. All the enchants are kind of what you would think. Rune of the Fallen Crusader, and then, you know, strength where you can, where you can't, like master Pandaren Step for the boots. You get the idea. Like I said, you'll notice I have 2 DPS trinkets. It's what you normally use. You can, I do actually keep a release trinket in my inventory. It is very, very nice having the release trinket when you're going against teams with massive disarms and cyclones and stuff, but you have Desecrated Ground, Icebound, Lichborn, and you don't need all those things. It's just nice to, or sorry, you don't need the release trinket, it's just nice to have sometimes. So again, that's kind of your choice. If you go against a druid and you know he's going to spam Cyclone on you, it's not going to hurt to have it. Same thing with the disarms, which you won't have to worry about in WoD. Now, I'm just going to cover kind of the basics of combat. I'll do another video after this, probably tomorrow or the day after, and I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to do a live commentary on it. I'm going to record myself playing some duels, arenas, and BGs, and then just kind of commentate on what I did. So for today, I'm just going to say, you know, what you would normally do. My normal opener, if they have things to dispel, keep in mind Glyph of Icy Touch, then you can open with Outbreak, pop your trinket or whatever, 2 Icy Touch, 2 Blood Boil, spam the Scourge Strike, keep your runing power up, pretty much just go for it. You use pretty much all your death runes on Necrotic Strikes. I have Blood Tap macroed so that I'm getting my Necrotic Strikes as soon as I can. And it's a really simple thing. There's not much thinking involved. When you get Death Runes, you Necrotic Strike, keep your dots up. One nice thing to remember is 1 Plague Strike applies both your dots, as you can see. And I do use Festering a lot. Festering, a lot of people just don't use it. I don't know why. If they don't have anything to dispel, you honestly don't really need the Icy Touch, and Festering does do decent damage. and also increases the time on your dots. So there's no reason you can't ever fester. Don't fall into the trap of, oh, I need to blood boil and I need to icy touch. I'm gonna wait a second. Notice you're an unholy DK. You have basically two cooldowns, and you typically use those two cooldowns at the same time. Right when that trinket procs like that you just saw, activate your other trinket and go ham. Activate that Unholy Frenzy, activate your Gargoyle. You might want to macro those together like most people probably do. Your Unholy Frenzy is what gets you your runes back about 30% faster. It gives you 30% more haste. And then at some point you'll figure out, oh hey, I don't really have 2 runes up. It's okay to blood boil if you only have a blood rune up. It's not that bad. Just make sure you keep up the damage. That's what you're going for. Keep up all the damage you can. Make sure your dots are up. You want to always empower your ghoul when you can. When you empower him, you'll notice his leap turns into a charge that basically, it has the ability to interrupt spellcasting and root for 2 seconds, and his Gnaw will turn into an empowered Gnaw where it's 4 seconds, and remember they don't have a cooldown, or not, sorry, they have a cooldown. They don't have an IC or a GCD. So what's nice about it is you can activate it while you're doing other stuff, while your ghoul's doing other stuff. You can, I have the macro, the control 4 and control 5. I can control 4, control 5 basically at the same time, and he'll instantly charge and stun them, or leap and stun them. It's also nice against stealthies. As soon as they come out, you just control 5, and your ghoul will, just invariably, it will stun them. So keep that in mind. When you are in an arena or dueling or whatever you might be doing, make sure you do watch your ghoul's life. It's not a big deal if he dies because he's a 1 minute cooldown. A lot of people will actually target him. You don't want him dead because you lose damage, but you can summon him in a minute. Just have to keep track of that. Couple things to remember. Runes, for a lot of people, they're too slow. I mean, I'm sitting here, fester. Yeah, I have 4 death runes coming, but they're not going to be coming for seconds. One thing you have to make sure is that you're using your runic power really wisely, so that you're putting your death coils out, and you're keeping track of your blood taps, you're keeping track of when your runes are coming back up. I don't have an add-on. A lot of people do have an add-on in the middle of their screen that'll, it shows your runes coming back up. I don't really need that, but if you do, I can't tell you what to look for. I'll try to find out and put it in the description. But just be cognizant of the fact that your runes are coming back up, and you have to know what you're going to do before they come back up. If you know that they have something to dispel, if you know you're going against, it could be a paladin that bops, you can dispel the bop with a glyph of icy touch. If you know you're going to do that, make sure you know when it's coming back up. If you're just going for necrotic spams, be cognizant of when it is coming back up. Necrotic strikes last for, I want to say 10 seconds. 1 second, let me get one. Yeah, the stack will last for 10 seconds. So if you know a rune's coming back up in about 5 seconds, you should definitely just wait for that to come back up and don't worry about when your necrotics are going to fall off. Now, if they're going to be spread apart, if you know you have one in 10 seconds and one that'll be a little later than that, you can wait for them both. The one thing you have to make sure of is you're not letting the necrotics completely fall off. If you let the necrotics fall off, then you lose a lot of leeway. It's cool that you have a 20k absorption up. It's much cooler if you have 60 or 70k and they're not falling off anytime soon, because then the healer's forced to pop through them all if they want to save their person, or bop them off, or whatever they're going to do. Whereas if you're sitting there and you let them fall off, then bam, that healer has got that guy up just like that, especially in Mist. 5.4, all about burst. The last thing I'm going to say, really, is I have a friend who just refused to empower Rune Weapon, and I could never really understand why. It's a great cooldown. Be cognizant of that cooldown. You using that opener, festering, that's 4 down, and then go scourge, pop that empower rune weapon. You have 4 necrotics, 2 more scourge strikes, and you're getting a bunch of runic power to spam into Death Coil, and Death Coil is going to give you Blood Tap's going to give you more necrotics. You're going to be able to stack 5, 6, 7 stacks of necrotics in the first 10 seconds. And while your Unholy Frenzy and Gargoyles out, you're going to be able to have just as many more. Or sorry, you're going to be able to have a lot more coming out because you're going to be regenerating your runes faster and you're going to be regenerating your you're going to be attacking faster. So again, be cognizant of what runes are coming up, when they're coming up, and what you can do to bring them up. If you run out of runes for more than 10 or 11 seconds, or if you run out of death runes for more than 10 or 11 seconds, your necrotics are just gone. So just something to keep track of. And I lied. There's one more thing I'll talk about. You can probably see over here I have a few... these are for 3s, basically. If you want to make these macros, they're really simple. The death grip macro is simply... you don't need to say show tooltip death grip. You can just say pound show tooltip, hit space, / cast target equal arena 1 will be the first arena enemy. Your second arena 2 will be your second arena enemy. And in case you do ever go Chillblains, you don't have to make your Strangulate into Asphyxiate. Actually, if you have something like Asphyxiate that replaces a skill, you put Strangulate there and it will already know that it's going to be asphyxiating. Like I said, I have Unholy Frenzy and Summon Gargoyle. Macro did the same thing, and my Grievous Gladiator's Badge of Victory, which for you is probably Prideful, so that they come up at the same time. One thing with Gargoyle, if you have both your trinkets procced and your rune on your weapon is procced, you summon your Gargoyle there and he's going to have a lot of damage. He'll get 50, 60k crits. When they have 550k life, they're ticking for 10 to 20k every couple seconds, 60k crits, 70k crits from your Gargoyle, and they're getting necrotic out the ass. They are going to fall over. That's just what you do. Be cognizant, like I said, of your dots. This outbreak macro is not actually for Unholy, but make sure you know outbreaks only at 1 minute cooldown. Your dots will typically not last that long, I'm just saying. Another thing, I showed this in the last video. The conversion macro is simply / cast !conversion. I'll show you again what that does. When you spam it, it tick heals you twice, just like that. But it takes 10 runic power. It won't turn it off, so you want to have conversion on your bar somewhere. Make sure... I'll talk about Dark Simula Karm while I'm actually playing, but, you know, just remember it's there. And is there any other macro that's really important? Oh, I do have my pet... I should change it to / pet attack, but... I have Pet Attack macro to Icy Touch and Death Coil. I have Blood Tap on Icy Touch and Death Coil. I could actually... Oh, and sorry, Scourge Strike and Festering have Blood Tap and Pet Attack on them. A lot of people don't use it. I actually really like having a macro together because I like to have them as soon as I possibly can. And, you know, I'm not blind. I know that if there's sometimes when I get them back and I don't really need them right then and there. I'll wait a couple seconds. It's not a big deal. Either way, you're getting the same effect. If you have to wait a couple seconds after you get them, or if you wait a couple seconds to use Blood Tap. So if you do macro them, be cognizant of when the Blood Tap is going to happen, and make sure you're not wasting that Blood Tap. Like I said, normally you get a Death Rune, you want a Necrotic. So thanks for watching part 2. Like I said, next time I'll kind of just record myself playing and then commentate on it afterwards, and show you where I'm putting this stuff into action. This is kind of just a basic overview. It's nothing like too hardcore. A lot of that stuff you have to kind of figure out on your own, but this should give you a nice foundation. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you like our stuff, please subscribe. You can check out our channel to check out our site, Facebook and Twitter, where I'm still talking to myself, but I like to hear my voice because who doesn't? And hope to see you guys back.